Florida insiders react with shock, amusement, and dread after Disney outmaneuvers DeSantis to keep most of its power. So, Disney and
This one
DeSantis
was
have
very
entered
interesting.
to another round of feuding. Disney outmaneuvered the governor, but he has warned that there is more to come. The turn of events amused insiders, but crossing DeSantis is considered fraught.
See, I'm not sure if I would call this an outmaneuvering
Didn't they hide
by
something in
Disney.
inside the?
Well, no, what they did, so um, essentially what happened, I had to look into this a little bit. What happened was the previous board of directors for the Reedy Creek Improvement District,
Mm-hmm.
which is the district that Disney, you know, essentially owns.
Mm-hmm.
Um, used to be a bunch of people appointed by Disney,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. So the board of directors of the district, just like every district, has a declaration of covenants.
Okay.
And what happened was they wrote like a 152-page declaration of covenants that basically says Disney has the power over this district forever and ever.
Mm-hmm.
We agree to it as the board, but the board is Disney.
Mm-hmm.
And then they introduced the bill on the very last day. They introduced this bill, talked about it for like 10 minutes, and then approved it unanimously
In the Florida government?
in the board of directors
At Disney.
meeting.
Okay.
So the Reedy Creek Improvement District board of directors held one of their meetings,
Mm-hmm.
talked about it introduced it, talked about it for 10 minutes. It's 152 pages,
Mm-hmm.
and then they passed it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then inside of that basically says Disney does whatever it wants,
Mm-hmm.
basically. Um, the whole thing with DeSantis is that DeSantis is, or the legislation that gave the governor power came into effect, and that the power actually is that DeSantis gets to appoint the people that are on that board of
Mm-hmm.
that Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the people that were appointed by Disney previously passed a law saying, or passed a declaration of covenants saying Disney has ultimate control. And then that was on their very last day
Mm-hmm.
where the new people came in. Which, you know what that sounds like to me?
Sneaky lawyers.
With Disney, Disney essentially went to Disney and said, "Do we have control of our own district?" And Disney said yes. And what that sounds
sneaky
like,
lawyers.
yes, and what that sounds like to me is the president pardoning himself on the last day in office.
Mm, entirely. I think
I would
that is a
I would make
fine analogy to make.
Yes,
Um,
I think that is a perfect analogy. Now, would that be legal?
for the president,
Because
no.
I think
For
it
Disney,
seems
maybe.
essentially to be
Disney's
the
not the
same
president.
thing to me.
Disney's
So
not the president. Uh, if Disney has
but you
an
understand what I mean by
army
that,
of
right? Like,
lawyers, I see the analogy you're making, and I accept the analogy. But the flaw is that Disney is not the constitutionally appointed and elected leader of the country. Disney's a company who makes decisions
uh-huh.
based on what is best for that company. Um, and they have decided that the governor of Florida having more control over what they do with their land is not best for their company, so they made decisions against it. And they've put policy in place so that they will have the authority over that land instead of people appointed by the governor of Florida.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to go so well for them.
Oh, I think it's going to go great for them. They've gotten what they wanted, and the only thing that DeSantis can do now is to use government power against a company.
Well, the company has essentially established itself as a state within the state of Florida,
Right. We shouldn't
which
let
they're not
companies
going
get
to.
that strong and big.
Well, exactly. So
Great. Well,
I
are
don't think this is going to
are
go well
are
for them.
conservatives unhappy when the government tells people what to do? Yes. And if Disney's not stupid, they will paint DeSantis as an authoritarian government telling them what to do with their company. Conservatives don't like that shit. If I know what conservatives, they hate it when the government tells companies what to do. And that's what DeSantis is doing here.
That's a bit of an overgeneralization,
It's
especially when
it is
the
a
company
generalization.
is trying to turn itself into its own autonomous state
I
within
know.
your country. Nobody likes that,
I
not even
agree.
conservative.
Uh, so the government needs to do proper management of a company when it gets too big. Um, that is, what was it? In 2008, they were calling Obama a socialist because he would take public. I'm sorry. They were calling Obama a socialist because he was going to take private companies and make them part of the state. They it was not true. It was nonsense. But that is what Sean Hannity told me on the AM radio, is that Barack Hussein Obama is going to take private companies and turn them into public utilities, and he's a socialist. If Disney plays their cards right, they will paint Ron DeSantis as a socialist.
I don't think that'll work.
I mean, if
I
they
think
do
that
that.
it ends in two ways. Number one, the legal teams that they've brought in to sort the whole thing out
Hmm.
end up finding some way to essentially dissolve this declaration of covenants and then
Hmm.
give the board of directors of Reedy Creek back, the power that they're supposed to have.
Hmm. I
The other
Okay.
possibility, I think, is that this then, because it goes against sort of the spirit of what the legislature tried to do, the
Hmm.
legislature will turn around and say, all right, then we are dissolving the Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Hmm.
We're changing this and we're creating multiple different districts, or we're renaming this district. It's no longer Reedy Creek.
Hmm.
And you don't have a declaration of covenants with the board of directors of this district, the new one. So your old one is null and void.
That would
That's the
take
only two ways I see this going.
no. Uh, this is a lawyer battle now. This is a battle of lawyers, and I'm going to suggest that
Well,
Disney
you
has
do realize
more
that
better
originally
lawyers
they
than the state of Florida.
the original idea was to dissolve the district entirely.
I know.
Like that's still on the table.
I don't think it was. Oh well, I don't think they.
The
If
reason,
Ron
and
DeSantis
in
could have done
fact,
it, he would
no, no,
have.
no, they were going to do that.
Uh-huh.
They were going to dissolve the district, and the problem is that the argument was that it would end up increasing taxes pretty substantially for people who are residents of that district.
Right.
So
And
now you have a company that is trying to make itself an autonomous zone, uh, which you can't allow. So now, if it comes down to it, you might just dissolve the district.
I think you are
They could still do
misconstruing
that.
that part. Disney hasn't this situation didn't exist because Disney was outreaching and grasping and gobbling up land and power. This happened because DeSantis runs a culture war. He wants a culture war. And
Takes two to tango.
his culture war, right? It does take two. His culture war irritated the workers at Disney. The workers at Disney complained to their management. The management fired whoever was in charge of a certain thing and brought in a new guy to make their workers happy. And DeSantis in the state of Florida is now persecuting the company for culture war reasons. If
So you
the
disagree with the reasons behind it,
right,
but you also don't think that a company should have its own autonomous zone.
right,
Right.
Ron DeSantis is he's bass backwards all the way around on the situation. He's persecuting a company for culture war, and they have actual issues that you could deal with, but he's doing it wrong. If you dislike Hitler because of his mustache, you're fucking wrong. If you dislike him because of the actions he took and the people he harmed, you're right. If you just dislike him because of his silly mustache, you're a crazy person. He's going about this all
I mean,
wrong.
both people dislike
Both
both
people
people
dislike
dislike
him,
him.
which is fine, but you're disliking him for the wrong reasons. You're disliking him the wrong way. DeSantis is going after the company, this gigantic mega company that ought to be reined in a little bit for culture war reasons, and that's insane. If
I
you
think
want to
that
go after Disney, then go after them for bad business practices, overworking the workers. If a company is harming their workers by stealing wages or not giving them overtime or putting them at 39 hours and then dicking them up so that they can't get full-time benefits and stuff like that, the government should intervene. But if the
well,
company is
I'll ask you this:
saying
if Disney has the right
it's okay to be
to set
gay,
its own laws inside of its full improvement district, then Disney gets to do whatever it wants.
if you have a government and you do not want Disney governing the inside of their parks, then come to them as a government about government, not the Don't Say Gay bill. If your problem with Disney is the fact that they are setting their own boundaries, their own law enforcement, their own nation state up inside Florida, then come at them for that. Don't come at them for the Parental Rights and Education Act. Don't come at them because their leader mean tweeted about you. You're doing it wrong. If the head of Disney says we support LGBTQ rights, and then you try and take their sovereignty away, you're fucking up. You're doing it
I think
wrong.
that this is your problem is that we've arrived at the correct answer with the wrong work for Matt.
Right, and now
Right?
it's
Like,
being undone by Disney's army of lawyers. Disney's army
well,
of
they're trying.
lawyers. Well, they've
I
already
don't think
undone
it'll
it
go
so
so
far.
well for them.
I think that the army of lawyers that Disney has is better, more experienced, and more well funded than the army of lawyers that DeSantis is going to put together.
We will
And
certainly find out. I
everything,
think that
and
I
everything
do
that,
think that the thing that they did in
mhm.
this case was a desperation move.
No,
Uh,
I don't think so. It was sneaky because they're better lawyers. Where did it say? This must
it
have
was
really been
sneaky.
ticklish for those attorneys to wonder when it was going to be discovered. The Disney attorneys laid down a landmine and walked away patiently, calmly, waiting for the governor of Florida to step on it, and they did. There will be more of these. This is a lawyer war. Disney will win because they have better lawyers than what Ron DeSantis will put together. And the reason, the backing, the absolute base reason Ron DeSantis is doing this is for his culture war.
Oh, what I was trying to say is I don't think that uh, Disney wins this in the end. The reason I say that is
Hmm.
because even if they win the Declaration of Covenants
Hmm.
legal battle, then all the all that DeSantis and the Republican legislature will do is take their board and go home, or take their ball and go home by dissolving the district entirely.
And then
They
they
will do
will.
it.
And you think that will win for DeSantis? That's not a win. If that was a win for him, he would have done it 6 weeks ago. It's not a win for him.
Well, there's levels of winning, right? There's getting exactly your way, exactly how you want to get it,
Hmm.
and then there's
Nuking everything around and
yeah.
salting the earth and burning all the plants and salting the earth and making sure that nobody ever comes
That's
back.
it. I would call it less of a victory, but it still accomplished what he set out to do.
Harm a
So,
company that disagreed with him
yeah,
in his culture war. That's what he's doing. That was his impetus. That was his purpose. That was entirely what he wanted.
I'd say that the goal would be to unravel special powers that
Absolutely
Disney
not.
has.
Then he would have done it a decade ago, and he would have complained about it years ago, and he would have been on board for getting rid of it 10 years ago. But he wasn't.
Well, I
He
will say that
didn't.
that
Disney talked shit about him, and he used the power of the state to harm them. That's
I'll say
why I
that
don't like him.
institutions that have special privileges probably should tread lightly to not lose those. They're
I
not even
recognize
supposed to
that.
have those privileges, which I don't think Disney ever should have. Then maybe they should keep their nose out of the state's business.
The state stuck their nose into Disney's businesses. He could have the he started a culture war, and the culture is fighting back. Like, this isn't Disney didn't start this fight. DeSantis started this fight.
The fight wasn't started with Disney. If you're saying that "Don't Say Gay" bill is the start of the fight,
That's the start
Disney
of a culture
chose
war.
to enter.
That is because they're part of culture. I mean, what the hell are they if they're not culture? You don't have to like current
Company,
culture, but literally,
company
Disney
that enjoys
is
very special privileges.
culture. I'm going to look up the word culture right now.
Disney is a company.
It's culture. The arts and other manifestations of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. That absolutely describes Disney. They
Disney
do
stories
arts.
and whatnot.
They
Their
are the
product is part of our
manifestations
culture.
of human intellectual achievement regarded collectively. We all know who that
It's
is
part of
right
our
there. We know who
yes.
Mickey Mouse is. We know what this is. It is a severe part of our culture. Ron DeSantis began a culture
The
war.
representations there are yes, but the company itself that manifests those representations not. It's a
They're a company. I recognize that. They are a company. And
yes, and that
what
company
is their what
company
is it that
enjoys
they deliver? What does that company deliver? Goods and services. Like they're delivering something to
like all companies,
customers. They're delivering stuff to customers. What are they delivering?
media,
Culture.
theme parks.
Culture. Disney is culture. You don't have to like it. You can say that we should have a different culture, or you can not appreciate Marvel if you want to. You can complain about the Marvel movies, but that is literally culture
I don't think that this works the way that you think it does.
that
Which of
Disney
the
has.
employees of Disney are in the 8th grade? Or
They are a part of the state. They have children. They have children who are going to be affected by this. The education of the entire state's children affects everyone in the state.
well, yes, exactly, Kyle. I'm saying that if they do choose to become political, they lose the special privilege that they're afforded by the government, which is exactly what's happening with.
Depending on what it is and if it has anything to do with anything. If Ron DeSantis passed a bill about land management and Disney was upset about it, and then they started fighting with him, and then he started taking land management rights away, I'm kind of on board. I'm okay with this. If Ron DeSantis passes a bill about paying your workers and Disney doesn't want to follow that rule and they because it affects their bottom line and they have to pay their workers either more or less or whatever, it changes the way they pay their workers, and Disney's upset about that, and they go to Ron DeSantis and they start shitting on him in public, on Twitter, in the news, then he has the right to say, these are the plans, this is what we're going to do, it's important, we're going to pass it. But this isn't about that. He has passed a culture war bill about gay and trans people. Disney said, hey, we support gay and trans people. Ron DeSantis takes away their land management. What the actual shit? What the fuck?
Ron DeSantis takes away their special privileges.
Which is land management. If that special privilege was about gay and trans people, I might be like, okay, that makes sense. But it's not. It has nothing to do. Their special privilege has nothing to do with the Don't Say Gay bill. It has nothing to do with it. He is
Right.
being
Neither does Disney.
vengeful.
Disney does
Disney
not have anything to
has
do with the Don't Say Gay bill.
workers.
They have workers, and those workers are free to protest or engage politically in whatever the way they choose.
And
Disney
they
itself is a company that decided to take matters into its own hands.
to benefit its workers.
Those workers are individuals who are very much free to go and engage in political activities without Disney itself engaging in those political activities.
But
If they
Disney
were so mad
can.
about it,
But Disney can.
Yes, they can. And
take a stance
also,
on
they can
it.
face consequences for engaging in political
And the
activity
consequence
when they
to
already have special privileges.
and the consequence to speaking out against the government is that the government takes away your land management rights.
Your special
That's
privileges, the ones that
insane.
nobody else has,
This is authoritarian.
the ones that you
They
never should have had
used
in the first
they
place.
used their First Amendment, and DeSantis slapped them down with the power of the government on a completely separate subject. If this entire thing was about worker pay, and then I would be on board for it. But it's not about that. It's about
Oh,
Governor
maybe
DeSantis
we're
running a.
disagreeing on the nature of the punishment here. I think. See, I see a company with special privileges,
Mhm. And that
and
means they have to shut the fuck up and stay the fuck out of politics.
oh yeah,
Is that what it
100%.
means? That's
Uh-huh.
insane.
Well, so do you think that if Universal had spoken up like Disney did, then what do you think DeSantis would do to Universal?
He
Do you
would
think
take
he'd
away
be able
their.
to do
He
anything?
would take away whatever he can. He would harm them in any way he wants, in any way he can, legally. You know what? There's a bar that held a drag show in 2022, and DeSantis took away their liquor license because he wants to hurt them. This 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 private corporate company, I think it's a bar or something like that, but it's a privately owned organization. What do you call it? Privately owned club, something along those lines. Held a drag show. He hates drag shows. He took away their government-sponsored liquor license because he wants to use the government to harm people who disagree with him. This is why I don't like him. This is why I keep talking about him, because he will use the power of the government to harm his opponents, and not in the right way. If 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 they had an issue, if he had years of complaining about the way that they are managing their land, there's a place for the governor of Florida to manage the land of Florida. I dig it. This is great. Fine. The governor of Florida has a say in the land of Florida. And if he was complaining about their land use and saying, here's the bill we're going to pass because this company has gotten too big in their land use and they are not following the laws and they are harming the state of Florida and harming the people of Florida, I'm on board. But that's not what's going on. He passed the Don't Say Gay bill. Disney says, hey, we don't like that. It's harming our workers. He takes away their land use. It tries to anyway. The one
He
has
doesn't.
nothing to do with the
I
other.
mean, they're still free to use the land, but they now have to use it the same way that Universal uses their land.
Right. So it has fuck all to do with the Don't Say Gay bill. He's just trying to hurt them. The law, when Republicans are involved, the law protects the inside group and harms the outside group. That's it. And Disney just became the outside group. So the law will be used to harm them. If Universal went along with him and said, hey, we love your plan, we're totally on board, and it's great, we want it to get passed, he would give them special privileges. Because the law is used to protect the people on the inside and harm the people on the outside.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
Trans people
Um,
are now on the outside, and their businesses will be harmed by the state.
I don't think that's true. Now, one thing I will say is I just looked up the hotel thing you were talking about, the liquor license.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so there are a couple of entities at play here. You've got the Florida government, you have the hotel,
Mm-hmm.
and you have the third-party company that runs the drag shows that rented the hotel.
Mm-hmm.
The state told the hotel, do not allow children into this event. The hotel turned around and told the third party, we recommend that you don't allow children to the event. It was the hotel's responsibility to not allow children to the event.
Mm-hmm.
The hotel failed to uphold its responsibility. That's why it got its liquor license.
Then hold them responsible for that. But don't find the thing that they don't find the place where they touch the government. and use the government to harm them.
What? I don't understand that sentence.
If the thing they did was illegal, then bring them up on charges for that. But don't
Well, a
find the
complaint was filed.
place.
The
Well, a complaint was filed.
says
Great.
the state warned it's right there on your page. The state warned the hotel ahead of the performance to stop children from attending. The hotel only made it a recommendation, allowed minors who went with adults. It also alleged that performers simulated sex acts and exposed prosthetic female breasts.
Then charge them for that.
State told them don't do this.
Right. Then charge them for that. Tell them that you were endangering children. Cite them for that. You don't take away their business license or their liquor license. Why did they choose the liquor license? Because that's where this company touches the government. That is the only place that Republicans in Florida could use the government to harm them.
Possibly, but there also might be stipulations in, I don't know all the laws about liquor license in Florida.
If they had any other kind of license, the Florida government would try to take it away. The government is trying to harm people that it doesn't like.
So I'll pose the question again then. If Disney did not have a special zone, privilege that is only afforded to Disney around the entire country, the only company that has its own autonomous zone. If Disney didn't have that, how do you think the government would harm Disney?
Through their liquor license, through any other sort of... Well, they would try. Yeah. They would try to harm them through some other means. Either through licensing or land management or some sort of tax incentives that might be in the area around, or people coming and going, because I know there's probably performers and stuff like that that have to go through there. The government probably touches them there. Anywhere that the government touches them is where they will attack. The government of Florida, the Republicans of Florida, will attack Disney anywhere Disney touches the government.
I just think that the special zone is about the only place that they'd really be able to do anything with, because
it's the biggest, easiest target.
Exactly. It's one that should never have existed in the first place. So again,
I never heard about it until
maybe you
now.
think it's the wrong work being shown, but the end result, the end answer is still correct.
Oh God, no! It's not even the correct end point, because
Disney should have its autonomous zone?
No, but what's going to happen? This isn't over. It isn't ended here. This isn't gone. They now have more power than they had before, and the government is about to come and take some of that power, or try to, and they're going to do such a shit job.
I mean,
Disney?
They've got the facsimile of it for now, but I think that what they did was desperation.
They outmaneuvered the governor.
I don't think that that article says they outmaneuvered him, but I don't think so. Again, I very much doubt that they'll be able to get away with the Declaration of Covenants in the first place. And then on top of that, even if they do win that legal battle, the next step is the legislature will just dissolve the zone like they originally planned to.
And that will hurt the governor. If it didn't hurt the governor, he would have done it sooner. If that could have caused harm to Disney and been a boon to him, he would have done it. But it wasn't. It could have. It's going to harm them, and it's going to harm him too. He's about to cut off his nose to spite his face.
Having the governor be allowed to appoint the board of directors for the district was specifically something that was the alternative. They were going to dissolve the district. They said, hey, actually, this is going to increase taxes for a lot of people in that district. So let's look for an alternative. So they found that alternative. The alternative was governor appoints the board of directors
Mm-hmm.
rather than Disney doing that. And then Disney turned around and said, "Well, fuck you. We're not going to let you do that." So I think the end result, if Disney manages to win the legal battle,
Mm-hmm.
is then they just go back to Plan A.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
I mean,
this is a bad guy fight. I'm not suggesting that I want to be on Disney's side, but I see Ron DeSantis as a bad guy attacking Disney, who is also a bad guy and is attacking Ron DeSantis.
I think that Disney didn't outmaneuver the governor. I think Disney outmaneuvered the other residents of the Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Okay, but
I think that
if those people on
Disney
that
doing
thing
this,
were appointed by the governor,
Disney doing this could ultimately fuck those people over, is what I'm saying.
okay,
And Disney could have, not engaged in this whole farce. And those people would still be just fine. But Disney did this. It's now whatever happens, I think it's Disney's fucking fault.
they didn't start this fight. And I still maintain the idea that the Don't Say Gay bill has nothing to do with this Reedy Creek zone. Nothing. Zero. It's spite from Ron DeSantis. Just spite. Pure.
I mean, there had to be some catalyst that caused them to lose their autonomy. And if this is what it was, then you disagree with it. I don't care.
Well, I don't think it's
They're
going to...
losing their autonomous zone. The final result is the correct.
The final result will be that they win in law, in a court of law. They're
Or
going to
lose.
win. Now, here's what I'm going to suggest is the future. Again, I'm telling the future. I think Disney wins in court because they have an army of lawyers, and then it becomes even more difficult to unseat them for the right reasons because now they have precedent. If you take a shot at the king and miss, you die. I think Ron DeSantis has taken a shot at the king and he has missed. And now he will pay the consequences. And now the next person to take a shot at the king will also fail.
When do you think this legal battle will be resolved? Do you think it'll be before or after the election?
I don't know. It's real estate land management, so it is very long, drawn out, and slow. Um,
I suppose it doesn't matter. I'll tell you what, I'll make you a bet.
okay.
I bet you that Disney loses this one. I'm not entirely sure that. I mean, I already know that Disney wouldn't fund DeSantis himself anyway. They're going to fund
Oh,
his opponent.
I think they would have if he hadn't done this. I think they would have if they could benefit and profit from the fame and attention he brings to Florida. If he could bring, if Ron DeSantis running for president could bring people to Florida, Disney would have backed him.
I think that Disney already has its own attraction anyway.
And worst case scenario,
I don't
the
think they
don't
need to back DeSantis to get people to Disney World.
the don't say gay bill will chase people out of Florida.
Maybe residents that don't like it, but people visiting so that they can go to Disney World, no.
Well, if you have fewer residents, you have fewer people to employ. If you can't employ enough people, or you have to lay people off, that looks bad on your quarterly earnings or something. And now
Sure, they'll still have plenty.
I'm
People are
sure
not,
they still have
in
plenty.
general, leaving Florida.
I
People are coming to Florida.
I think people will leave Florida because of the culture war.
I think it'd
I
be a lot fewer people than you think.
I don't know. It depends on how hard they go, which is why I don't like the culture war that he's running anyway. I think he's trying. I've said it before. I think he's trying to get gay and trans people to leave. He's trying to get blue voters to leave Florida. Go to a city, go to a blue state, get out of Florida. That's what he wants. So that he can win repeatedly, easily, without even trying.
That is also not necessarily correct because I
How do you
do
figure?
believe there is, what is it? The rule in Florida, you can only serve one term as governor at a time, or two, and then you have to go do something else, and you can. I think you're allowed to come back and try to run again.
Then he'll be
But
senator.
Florida has weird laws. Like
Then he'll be senator. I
I
mean,
know
or he'll
that
be in
Rick
charge of the
Scott was
state
the
or something.
governor, and
Mhm.
then he ran out of time as governor, so he ran for senator instead.
Mhm.
Uh, and DeSantis took over as governor.
He's still a party guy. He still wants red people in the seats. He wants Republicans in those seats. He wants a Republican governor. He wants a Republican state house. He wants Republican senators, state senators, judges. He wants all these Republican things. And that's easier if the blue people leave your state.
I would argue it's already relatively easy for now, because DeSantis is very much like in the state. Like all these people that are writing these articles and whatnot,
Mhm.
they don't represent the view of the majority of people in Florida.
Oh, hi. Thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button, press the subscribe button. Uh, if you want to tell me how right I am, feel free to leave a comment. If you want to tell me how wrong I am, leave a comment too. That's good. Um, this is just kind of a hobby for me, so I appreciate you coming by, giving it a watch, and pressing the YouTube buttons. Thanks.